China. China uses a Chinese version of the Soviet-style marshal hierarchy for the People's Liberation Army, reshaped by 1955 and 1988 reforms. The ladder runs from conscripted soldiers and non-commissioned officers through company and field-grade officers up to full generals under the Central Military Commission. It keeps the marshal family idea of mass conscripts, a strong NCO layer and several officer tiers, with a theoretical top rank of Marshal of the People's Republic of China above generals that is not used today. Compared with NATO, PLA officers map roughly from OF1 to OF5, with top commanders around OF9. Related systems exist in North Korea, Vietnam, Laos and Cuba. Russia. Russia uses the original Soviet-style marshal hierarchy in the armed forces that replaced the Soviet Army in the 1990s, carrying forward the Red Army structure more directly. Conscripts and junior sergeants form the base. Above them, senior NCOs and praporshchiks, then lieutenants and captains, majors and colonels, and finally generals and army generals. Structurally, it is more officer-heavy than many NATO forces and historically relied on NCOs. The highest rank on paper is Marshal of the Russian Federation, above General of the Army. Officers map roughly from OF1 to OF5, with Army generals and the Marshal tier around OF9 to OF10. Similar systems exist in Belarus, Kazakhstan, and other former Soviet-trained allies. India. India uses a British pattern rank system in the Indian Army, adapted from the British Army tradition after independence. The ladder starts with Sepoy, then Lance Naik, Naik, and Havildar as NCOs, followed by junior commissioned officers, Naib Subedar, Subedar, and Subedar Major, and then commissioned officers from lieutenant and captain through major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, and brigadier, to Major General, Lieutenant General, and General. Structurally, it mirrors NATO armies quite closely, with a clear NCO-JCO officer split, so most officer ranks map cleanly from OF1 to OF9. The highest rank on paper is Field Marshal of the Indian Army, a 5-star title awarded only twice. Similar British pattern hierarchies appear in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and many former Commonwealth forces. Israel. Israel uses a compact conscript reserve hierarchy in the Israel Defense Forces, with one unified rank system across Army, Air Force, and Navy. The ladder runs from privates and corporals through sergeants and staff sergeants, then senior NCOs such as Rav Samal, Master Sergeant, and officers from Segen, Mishnah, and Segen, lieutenants, through Siren, captain, and Rav Siren, major, up to Aluf, Major General, and Rav Aluf, Lieutenant General, as Chief of Staff. Structurally, it is leaner than many NATO forces, built around short compulsory service and a huge reserve, so most officers still map broadly from OF1 to OF9. Similar compact hierarchies appear in other small, reserve-heavy forces that have been trained or advised by Israel, such as some units in Uganda, Kenya, and Colombia. Indonesia. Indonesia uses a unified TNI rank system across its Army, Navy, and Air Force, with Indonesian titles layered over a broadly Western-style ladder. The hierarchy runs from enlisted ranks like Prajurit and Kopral, through NCOs such as Sersan and Sersan Mayor, then officers from Letnan 2 and Letnan 1 to Kapten, Mayor, Letnan Colonel, Colonel, Brigadier General, Mayor General, Letnan General and General at the top. Structurally, it resembles many Western forces, so most officer grades still map roughly from OF1 to OF9. The honorary top rank on paper is Jenderal Besar, Grand General. Closely related hierarchies can be seen in neighbours like Malaysia and, with local tweaks, Thailand and the Philippines. Iran. Iran uses a revolutionary dual hierarchy system with parallel ladders in the regular army, Artesh, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. The Artesh follows a fairly standard structure from enlisted soldiers and NCOs through lieutenants, captains, majors, colonels, and generals, while the IRGC uses different titles, but equivalent layers of junior officers, field officers, and senior commanders. Structurally, that means Iran has two officer corps answering to the same supreme leader, unlike most NATO armies that have only one main hierarchy. The top ranks are Major General and Lieutenant General equivalents in each branch. Similar Army plus Guard setups have appeared in countries like Iraq under Saddam, Syria, and, in different forms, Libya. North Korea. North Korea uses a multi-tier marshal rank system in the Korean People's Army. The ladder runs from enlisted soldiers and NCOs through lieutenants, captains, majors, and colonels to several grades of general officers. Above the generals, there are additional ranks such as Deputy Marshal, Marshal, and Grand Marshal of the DPRK, which formally sit at the top of the hierarchy. Structurally, it maintains a large enlisted base with multiple officer and general levels plus extra marshal grades. Similar multi-level general and marshal structures, though with fewer top titles, existed in earlier Chinese and Vietnamese forces and several other former socialist-aligned armies. Turkey. Turkey uses a NATO-linked Turkish rank system in the Turkish Armed Forces, combining Western officer grades with Turkish titles. The ladder runs from enlisted ranks like ER and Onbaşı through NCOs such as Savush, Ustavush, and Astsubay. Then officers from Teğmen and Üsteğmen, lieutenants, through Yüzbaşı, captain, Binbaşı, major, Yarbay, lieutenant colonel, and Albay, colonel, up to two general, Tüm general, corps general, and or general as the highest general ranks. Structurally, it aligns closely with NATO's OF1 to OF9 mapping, but keeps its own language and insignia. Similar Turkish-influenced structures appear or are being adopted in close partners such as Azerbaijan, and to a lesser extent Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Egypt. Egypt uses an Arab Republican rank system in the Egyptian Armed Forces, combining European-style officer ladders with Arabic rank titles and insignia. The army ladder runs from enlisted ranks like Jundi and Arif through NCOs such as Raqib and Raqib Awal, then officers from Mulazim and Mulazim Awal, lieutenants, through Naqib, captain, Ra'id, major, Muqaddam, lieutenant colonel, and Aqid, colonel, up to Amid, Liwa, Fariq, and Fariq Awal, with Mushir, field marshal, as the top rank on paper. Structurally, it looks close to many Western hierarchies, so officers map roughly from OF1 to OF10. Very similar Arab Republican patterns appear in Syria, Iraq during Ba'ath era, Yemen, and Libya, where Egyptian models and training were influential. Brazil. Brazil uses a Latin American Iberian-influenced rank system in the Brazilian Armed Forces, with Portuguese titles over a Western-style ladder. The army hierarchy runs from enlisted ranks like Soldado and Cabo through Sargento and Subtenente as NCOs, then officers from Segundo Tenente and Primero Tenente to Capitão, Major, Tenente Coronel, and Coronel, and up to General de Brigada, General de Divisão, and General de Exército. The highest rank on paper is Marshal, Marshal, a 5-star wartime rank that is rarely used. Structurally, it matches NATO's OF1 to OF9 pattern closely, and very similar rank families appear in Argentina, Chile, Colombia, and Peru, which all use related Iberian-derived officer and NCO titles. Japan. Japan uses a post-war self-defense rank system in the Japan Self-Defense Forces, JSDF, built on Western officer grades but with Japanese self-defense titles and a legal focus on defense, not war. The ground, maritime and air self-defense forces all share the same rank ladder. Enlisted personnel and NCOs at the base, then officers from Shoi and Chui, second and first lieutenant, through Tai, captain, Shosa, major, Chusa, lieutenant colonel, and Taisa, colonel, up to Shosho, Chujo and Taisho as general or admiral ranks. The highest serving post is a 4-star general or admiral as Chief of Staff, Joint Staff. Structurally, it tracks NATO's OF1 to OF9 pattern very closely. And similar US-influenced, non-NATO hierarchies appear in South Korea and Taiwan. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia uses a Gulf monarchic rank system in the armed forces of Saudi Arabia, built on Western-style ladders but with Arabic titles and royal symbolism. The army hierarchy runs from enlisted ranks like Jundi and Jundi Awal, through NCOs such as Arif, Wakil Raqib and Raqib Awal, up to Rais Ruqaba, then officers from Mulazim and Mulazim Awal, lieutenants, through Naqib, captain, Ra'id, major, Muqaddam, lieutenant colonel, and Aqid, colonel, to Amid, Liwa, Fariq, and Fariq Awal as senior generals. The highest rank in the wider Arab tradition is Mushir, a field marshal equivalent used as a ceremonial top grade by ruling families. Very similar monarchic Gulf structures and titles appear in the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan.